of rain across central parts. Across Northern Ireland again, the rain will start shifting its way further south and eastwards, but still holding on to some strong winds here. Further showers across Wales, across the southwest of England, but a drier end to the night across the south and east. So as we head through this evening, actually we'll see further cloud and rain sink its way southwards as the area of low pressure skirts across the country. So turning wet and windy across Wales and the southwest of England. Otherwise, across Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll lose some of those showers, but it's still going to be chilly. We'll see those northerly winds move in once again, but it is generally going to stay frost-free as we start Monday morning. So some strong winds across the south and west with blustery showers here, turning drier into the afternoon, especially across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Focus for the showers on Monday are going to be running across eastern coast. Otherwise, a lot of cloud around, but in the sunshine, actually Northern Ireland not doing too bad, holding up at 9 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m, only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning and welcome to Sunday with Michael Portillo. J.K. Rowling described November as cold as frozen iron, with hard frosts every morning and icy drafts that bit at exposed hands and faces. At the end of a chilly November week, you are most welcome for 2 hours to enjoy the glow of arts, culture, current affairs and politics. The Chancellor will deliver her long-awaited, much-trailed budget. Will it chart the way towards national growth or towards the destruction of the Starmer government? My panel will have views. The United States has delivered a stark ultimatum to Ukraine: accept a massive loss of territory to Russia or risk losing United States support. I'll speak to Defence and Foreign Affairs editor at The Telegraph, Con Coughlin. Ministers will reportedly legislate to remove the right for trial by jury in thousands of cases in a bid to shrink the court backlog by 2029. We'll be debating that major change to the justice system with a former Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis-Casey. And Noel Gallagher, one half of the band Oasis, once said, "The thing about Manchester is it all comes from here." A bold claim. Ed Blinnett, who's now written a new biography of the city, will discuss the role that Manchester plays in Britain's industrial and cultural life. All of that and more indeed. But first, your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Michael, thank you. Good morning. Your top stories at 11 o'clock. A senior Conservative minister says the Chancellor's position has become untenable amid chaotic announcements ahead of the budget next week. Last week, Rachel Reeves scrapped plans to raise income tax rates, but she's widely expected to raise other taxes in an effort to bridge a multi-billion-pound gap in her spending plans. Writing in the Daily Mirror, she's pledged to grip the cost of living crisis. But Mel Stride told GB News the British public is running out of patience.
I think if we've reached the point where this government in opposition made a lot of very clear commitments, including in their manifesto, then promptly junked a lot of them and did different things in office, and has now arrived at a point where once again we are led to believe they will be putting up taxes on hard-working people, which is something that they've said they wouldn't do, then yeah, I think it's time for her to step aside, I'm afraid.
Rail fares in England will be frozen next year for the first time in 3 decades as part of government plans to move rail services back into public ownership. Ministers say the move will save millions of travellers hundreds of pounds, off-season tickets, peak and off-peak returns between cities. A typical commuter travelling to work 3 days a week using flexi-season tickets could save more than £300 a year. But travel journalist Simon Calder said more needs to be done.
But you've absolutely got to attract new people on board. Otherwise, the long-suffering taxpayer who currently pays about £400 a second to keep my train running, thank you very much, and quite possibly never goes near a train, is going to have to pay even more. It's a tricky old time, but I do say at least they're trying something different.
President Donald Trump has said his plan to end the war between Russia and Ukraine is not his final offer for Kyiv, after Ukrainian allies raised concerns over the proposals. The plans would see Kyiv hand territory to Moscow and place limits on Ukraine's armed forces. The leaders from Europe, Canada and Japan said the 28-point proposal has elements essential for a just and lasting peace, but that it requires more work. Delegations from Ukraine, the US and the UK, as well as security chiefs, are meeting in Geneva today for further discussions. The Prime Minister has urged anyone with information about Jeffrey Epstein to come forward. It's after Andrew Mountbatten Windsor failed to appear in front of US Congress. Sir Keir Starmer says while the decision lies with the former Duke of York, his position is if you have relevant information, you should be prepared to share it. The King's brother is facing criticism from US authorities after he failed to respond to a request for an interview. And a gold pocket watch recovered from a passenger who drowned during the sinking of the Titanic has been sold for £1.8 million at auction. It's the highest amount ever paid for Titanic memorabilia. The 18-carat gold engraved watch belonged to the American businessman Isidore Straus, who died alongside his wife, Ida. You're up to date. I'll have more for you at midday.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Thank you very much, Bethany Elsey. A Chancellor of the Exchequer, who said after her last budget that she would have no need again to raise taxes, will increase them sharply in the budget this week. The promised economic growth has not emerged. And while she's been preparing the budget, Labour sank in one opinion poll into 4th position and speculation raged that Sir Keir Starmer would be replaced as Prime Minister. Can Rachel Reeves regain the confidence of her party and the markets? Or will history judge that the budget helped her to seal her fate and that of Sir Keir, the First Lord of the Treasury? Well, joining me now is my panel, political consultant and former Labour candidate Kevin Craig, and writer and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth. Good morning to you both.
Morning.
Welcome back to you both. Kevin, what do you think is at stake in this budget?
What isn't at stake, actually, Michael? I think the priorities are going to be very clear. The NHS, cutting the national debt and improving the cost of living, especially for those people called working people by the government. And that shorthand for me is, I know, people probably less than 50 grand a year. And I think we don't know what's going to be announced. And I think the funny thing for the government, funny in speech marks, is there's so much they're getting right and it doesn't translate into popularity currently with the polls. Interest rates, mortgages down for millions, 3 million people getting a boost in living standards with the minimum wage rises. It's a long-term project, but there's no denying at the moment that the government is suffering from a real popularity deficit. But I'm very confident as the founder of a multi-million-pound business who believes in capitalism and raising people up. And I was in Downing Street last week and Rachel gets it. So I'm excited about it.
The 3 points with which you succinctly describe what they were trying to do, cutting the debt, cutting inflation and cutting waiting lists for the NHS, they echo what the Chancellor has written in today's Sunday Mirror. And I thought that this was unusual because there was a degree of coherence. There was a story, a narrative. You know that many Labour MPs have been complaining there's no narrative. So this is the narrative, is it? Would you like to take us through that? How will they cut inflation? How will they cut debt? How will they cut waiting lists?
Well, there's going to be... To answer that question, we don't talk enough about how much investment has come into this country of late. So if you look at announcements from JP Morgan Chase in Bournemouth, from Nvidia, from the announcements that came out with the Trump state visit. So investment coming in is going to assist growth and cut debt. The NHS has received very significant amounts of money, but there's also some very difficult choices been put forward there that some parts of the medical establishment don't like in terms of making it more efficient. And then we're going to continue to putting money in the pockets of those on the lowest incomes, all while trying to retain the confidence of international markets.
Which of those cut inflation?
Which of those cut inflation?
Yes.
A combination.
Yeah.
Of all of them, yeah. I mean, look at where inflation is today, at 4 point something versus 11 in 2022. It is coming down, and stability does that, as well as wholesale reform.
That's what it was at the election, I think. Well,
but the overall trend is in the right direction. And if you have major planning reform, if you have major investment in infrastructure and some of the areas that are really contentious, green energy, over time, and you know this, you've served in cabinets, that investment flows through and assists in cutting inflation.
Candice, are you entirely convinced by what you've just heard?
No, I think I look at these things in terms of... I look at it through a generational prism. A lot of people my age, mid to late 30s, are just feeling incredibly despairing about the future. The rate of inflation may have gone down, but we are still really struggling. Most people I know have nothing left at the end of the month after childcare costs, mortgage costs, student debt, food costs a fortune, and in fact, even though the rate of inflation has gone down, every other bill has gone up, and we are taxed unbelievably. That's why so many people don't want income tax to go up, because they're actually like, I've got no money left. No one I know is hopeful. Everyone I know, everyone I speak to says, I think I'm going to leave the country. The only thing that holds them back is they don't know where is better, where would actually be better.
There is a poll that is reported today. It's by More in Common, and it shows this widespread despondency about people's living conditions, personal circumstances and their view of the economy. But your friends that you're talking to, whom do they blame and what do they think might be the remedy?
I think they look at the political class. I don't think they blame just Labour. I think they think the Conservatives failed as well. They have no faith in the political class to make the decisions that need to be made. I think a lot of people think that there's a lack of understanding for what our generation is going through. the sort of the pressures we have to face. And a lot of policymakers and politicians are sort of in the mindset of 10 years ago, and they don't have empathy for how things are for us. Often when people will talk about, I can't get a mortgage, or I'm struggling to pay my mortgage, they'll be told, well, it was hard for us as well, and we managed to do it, without looking at hard, cold facts. Like, the fact of the matter is that mortgages are sometimes 5 times people's incomes now, whereas they used to be twice people's incomes. I'm just speaking on average. In London, it can sometimes be like 10 times that amount. Then you look at people in their early 20s, and then I think you see the most despair and nihilism. You've got huge amounts of people just on benefits, basically, not working, with anxiety and depression. They have no hope. To be honest, most people I know have completely checked out of politics. They don't have much hope. Those who are politically engaged might start going for the Greens and for reform, but a lot of people are just completely disillusioned, and I think that's such a terrible thing.
The More in Common poll, also to my surprise, showed, I think it's a good majority, think there should be public spending cuts.
Yes.
This did quite surprise me. Does your generation have any idea where those cuts should be?
I think the biggest thing people look at is the worklessness crisis. So they'll say that people should not be left to rot on benefits for things like anxiety and depression. They should be encouraged to come back into work. A lot of people are opposed to lifting the 2-child benefit cap, because think how many people I know can't afford to have children or can only afford to have one. And yet there are people who are not managing their costs who will have more than 1 or 2 children. So, yes, I think that's where most people think that the spending should be cut.
Kevin, it's a nice point. I mean, presumably the Chancellor of the Exchequer believes that she's going to win over Labour backbenchers with the end of the limit on 2 children for child benefit. However, the people who have more than 2 children are quite a small minority, and these extra benefits are going to be paid for them by other taxpayers, many of whom have made a decision to have 2 children or fewer because they can't afford to have more.
Yeah.
How popular do you think that's going to be?
Well, it's a funny policy, isn't it? Because there's a sort of unanimity between Reform and Labour on this, because Nigel Farage, I think, also called for this policy to be ended. I think it will be popular with some in the Labour movement if it comes through. But what I think is really important, the very articulate way that we just heard framed how people are feeling.
Yeah.
I can tell you that is the government and its leading politicians are so aware of this. They feel it. These are, the metrics of a cabinet that only went to state school as a small measure. These are people rooted in the real world, and they know that this government is not at the moment connecting with this sense of despair that so many people feel. And that is the challenge in all these big policies. And that's why, as you say, the budget's got 3 priorities: the NHS, the national debt and the cost of living. Because Rachel Reeves knows how many people feel like we just heard.
Your first answer to me, you said, what isn't at stake? So let me go back to that. Yeah. I put it to you that what's at stake is the survival of the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
OK. Well, it's a great return to that point, because I don't think that point is at stake. I think that there's a lot of panic and hyperbole at times on this discussion. There has been one terrible opinion poll that you've alluded to. In reality, the British people, as you know, having been there and done that, elects parliaments for 5-year terms, and the government has to be given a chance to deliver on the areas that they went to the British people. I think the Parliamentary Labour Party is going to be sensible, and it understands if you start changing leaders mid-term, the British people don't like it. What do you think?
Well, I mean, polling suggests that a majority of MPs either wish, or at least, whether they wish it or not, rather believe that there's going to be a change of Prime Minister. I mean, I'm afraid number 10 helped to put this into the public domain, the public discourse. I mean, you observe these things. I entirely agree that the constitutional position is that the government should have its 5 years, and I think it probably will. However, updating the constitution, it now seems that parties may choose to change their leader rather frequently.
But it doesn't end well. And, the proposition that was put to Britain in 2024, which led to a massive Labour majority, albeit quite shallow, was a moderate Labour Party, some would say a bit boring, right? Led by Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves to deliver on 6 or 7 key areas. A lot of that is already happening, and Labour MPs who think that changing that is their right or their privilege need to have a look in the mirror, Michael.
I wish you luck, because I made the same argument about keeping Boris. I said, it will all be worse if you get rid of Boris. And I think that was borne out. I mean, we don't know what would have happened otherwise. So I wish you very good luck with your argument. What do you think? Do you think the careers of our top two leaders are at stake?
Well, I think as soon as you start talking about it, then it kind of looks like you're in a doom spiral, right? That the confidence is lost. It's very difficult for me to find the signal amongst the noise. There's a lot of rumour and speculation. The one consistent thing I've heard, though, and this comes from international investors as well, is they'll be looking towards the May elections. And a lot of investment is being frozen. If Labour do particularly badly in the May elections, then you might see Starmer resign. But I think that's only if he can't get done what he needs to be done, if the backbenchers are just so intransigent and he just can't do anything. And that happened with Theresa May as well. I mean, she ran into the same problems. I mean, this is the big problem we have. I feel like we have a political class that can't come to where the public are. They can't meet them where they are. Yeah. And until they do that, I think you're going to just have this constant volatility and unhappiness.
So let's go back to your generation. I would rather assume that your generation thinks that not much would change if the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of the Exchequer were changed.
Yes, because I think the backbenchers are highly ideological and don't have a pragmatic attitude and are very resistant to a lot of the changes they want to make. Even looking at the backlash towards Shabana Mahmood, for example, for her asylum reforms. I mean, most people would think those are quite mild and sensible, but she's already been accused of bigotry and racism. So I don't think they can get to where people are. They're just not there. The backbenchers are just not where the Cabinet is, and the Cabinet's really struggling with them. And so I think that even if Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves were to go, what would change? What would materially change?
May I say something?
Of course you may, Kevin.
Didn't wish to interrupt, but I think, and I've spent a lot of time with a lot of the Parliamentary Labour Party and I study it and have to be involved with it in many ways. I actually think that the Parliamentary Labour Party is much more aligned with the bigger picture than what you've just suggested. There are a small number of extreme views, as you get in any party, but I think that MPs do understand that they have to support the Prime Minister and Chancellor. Otherwise, they're all doomed, Captain Mannering.
Well, on this question of support, the Chancellor has hinted that while she gives way to backbenchers on the two-child cap, she wants to return to the question of welfare reform, on which she has not received the support of the backbenchers. Do you think that there's any chance that the backbenchers will enable her to conduct meaningful welfare reform? Both of you referred to the terrible issue we have with so many people of working age not working.
Yeah, I mean, the Labour government will have to return in this Parliament to cutting spending. And I think there's unanimity across politics that the number of people on benefits compared to 5 years ago is so vastly increased that it has to be addressed. What has to be done this time, they have to bring more of the Parliamentary Labour Party with them and understand that this is necessary in order for this Labour government to be deemed a success. We have to do it in this Parliament. You have to tackle the level of public spending in that area.
Thank you very much, panel. Kevin Craig, Candice Holsworth. They'll rejoin me as a panel at noon to discuss the new trial of puberty-blocking drugs in children. And coming up, the United States has delivered a stark ultimatum to the Ukraine. Accept a deal made between the United States and Russia or lose American support. I'll be speaking to Defence and Foreign Affairs Editor at The Telegraph, Con Coughlin. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. President Trump delivered a pretty stark ultimatum to Ukraine: accept a huge loss of territory and restrictions on the size of your army, and renounce the ambition of joining NATO or risk losing United States support. Vladimir Putin would, with this deal, walk away with the Donbas regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, as well as, of course, Crimea. President Trump now suggests that it's not a take-it-or-leave-it deal after all. Sir Keir Starmer and other international leaders have tactfully called the plan devised by Russia and the United States as a basis which will require additional work, as they express concern about the proposals to limit Kiev's armed forces. Joining me now is the Defence and Foreign Affairs editor at The Telegraph, Con Coughlin. Con, it's very good to speak to you again. Welcome back to GB News.
Good morning, Michael.
Been a slight easing of Trump's position, apparently. It's not a take-it-or-leave-it deal. But do you know what I see kind of shaping up here is that the territory's gone. The territory that the Russians have taken is gone. Possibly even territory that the Russians haven't taken is gone. And where there might be some flexibility, I suspect, is the point at which the Europeans seem to be focusing at the moment, which is not cutting back Ukraine's armed forces to such an extent. What do you think?
Well, I mean, on the territorial issue, Michael, you're quite right. I mean, I think we've got to the point where neither side can win. You get these swings in the battlefield where one side has the initiative, then the other side has the initiative, but they're like two prize fighters just punching themselves to a standstill, because none of these gains that they've made over the last, say, 18 months have been significant enough to change the course of the conflict. So that's the situation on the ground. But when it comes to diplomacy and trying to end this conflict, you have to look at the broader issues, which are far more important. And that is, the big question here, is Russian aggression going to be rewarded? And I describe Trump's deal in The Telegraph in my column today as an abomination, because if this deal were to be implemented, it would reward Russia, and that sets a very, very dangerous precedent, given that Putin is a very aggressive Russian leader. His ambitions lie not just in Ukraine, but elsewhere in Europe. And if he's come away from this conflict thinking, well, actually, in the long term, despite all the sacrifices, I prevailed, so I can go and do it somewhere else in the future, in the Balkans, in the Baltics, in Eastern Europe. So, this is a very dangerous moment, Michael.
Con, I entirely appreciate what you're saying. I agree with you. I think most Europeans would agree with you. But I'm asking you to be realistic. What I'm saying is that the point about which the negotiations are now likely to occur between the Europeans and President Trump. The point of those negotiations is not going to be about giving back territory to Ukraine. It might possibly be about Ukraine not surrendering territory that is not already lost. If anything, it's only going to focus on the level of armed forces that Ukraine is going to be allowed to keep. By the way, I would also throw into that I don't think there's any question that Ukraine will be allowed to entertain the possibility of joining NATO. What do you think? Speaking realistically rather than idealistically.
Yeah, well, realistically, you're talking a lot of sense, Michael. But let's just drill down on the territorial issue, which is what you're talking about. There is a way of doing this deal where Russia gets to hold on, not keep, hold on to the territory it's captured without there being international recognition that this is Russian territory. Now, that's quite an important distinction, because if the deal ends with a sign-off that forevermore this territory in eastern Ukraine and Crimea is Russian territory, internationally recognized, well, that really does drive a horse and coaches through international law and sets a dangerous precedent. So the diplomats, and it'd be interesting to see what comes out of Geneva today, they will be aware of this. And with Trump, I mean, I've always taken the view, let's see what actually lands with Trump, rather than speculate about his what's going on with his various plans. But the plan as it stands is basically indicating that Russia can keep the territory if it pays Ukraine a sort of rent for the territory. So that is not saying that this is Russian territory. This is saying it's Ukrainian territory, and to hold on to it, Russia must pay rent. So, these are diplomatic niceties, but they're very important.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. What do you think about the proposal to readmit Russia to the family of nations into the G7, which I suppose would revert to becoming the G8? I mean, can you imagine now Macron, Starmer and others standing shoulder to shoulder with Putin at regular summits?
Well, I can see Macron standing shoulder to shoulder with Putin because, as you well know, Michael, at the start of the conflict, he had a one-man band to stop the war and was prepared to do anything to get Putin back on side. So, the only thing I would question is, what's the point of G7 in the first place? We just, we've just had G20. What's come out of that? These are talking shops. So, if it makes Putin behave himself, which is a very big if it makes him feel that he's a global statesman and it keeps him quiet, well, why not? But I think that, as I said, the thing that I will be concentrating on in the coming days is the nitty-gritty of any deal that does emerge as a result of this latest Trump initiative.
I imagine, Con, that at school you learnt about realpolitik. Realpolitik was associated with Bismarck, the Chancellor of Germany, and realpolitik meant that what mattered was, what you could grab, what you could get. Theorising meant nothing. It was all about power and the compromises that you had to make in the face of power. And we're getting a lesson in realpolitik today, are we not?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that Putin's a Bismarck, Michael. I mean, he'd love to be described as such. I mean, this is basically, he's not a very intellectual leader, but he certainly has an enormous grudge on his shoulder about the collapse of the Soviet Union and rebuilding the Russian Empire. So, I mean, but as you say, realpolitik on both sides is going to be very important. But capitulating to Russia, to my mind, is not an option for the West if we want to avoid further conflicts and potentially a third world war.
Thank you, Con. Keep saying it, but watch this space. Coming up, ministers will reportedly legislate to remove the right to trial by jury in thousands of cases. It's a bid to shrink the court backlog by 2029. We'll be debating that major change in the justice system with the former Attorney General, Sir Michael Ellis, KC, and indeed with Kevin Craig. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's a mixed picture out there. We have an area of low pressure bringing rain and showers in the north, but it is actually going to be turning much brighter in the south and east. So an area of low pressure situated to the northwest of the UK, a real squeeze in the isobars across Northern Ireland, indicating some strong winds here. But otherwise, across Scotland, especially north of the central belt, that's where we're going to see outbreaks of rain and hill snow. Further rain across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but to the south of that across Wales, southwest England, it's sunny spells, it's showers, but a much drier end to the weekend across the southeast. Temperatures reaching up to 10 or 11 degrees here, but feeling chilly underneath the cloud and the rain across the north. So as we head through the rest of this evening, again, we have this slow-moving weather front across Scotland, so bringing further spells of rain across central parts. Across Northern Ireland, again, the rain will start shifting its way further south and eastwards, but still holding on to some strong winds here. Further showers across Wales, across the southwest of England, but a drier end to the night across the south and east. So as we head through this evening, actually we'll see further cloud and rain sink its way southwards as the area of low pressure skirts across the country. So turning wet and windy across Wales and the southwest of England. Otherwise, across Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll lose some of those showers, but it's still going to be chilly. We'll see those northerly winds move in once again, but it is generally going to stay frost-free as we start Monday morning. So some strong winds across the south and west with blustery showers here, turning drier into the afternoon, especially across Northern Ireland and western Scotland. Focus for the showers on Monday are going to be running across eastern coast. Otherwise, a lot of cloud around, but in the sunshine, actually Northern Ireland not doing too bad, holding up at 9 degrees.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain's economy is at a crossroads.
And this budget day, every decision counts.
From taxes and rent to the cost of living.
Whatever the outcome, the GB News family will be there.
With expert analysis, breaking down what it means for you.
Budget day, all day Wednesday.
Only here on the People's Channel.
Britain's News Channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. The government is proposing that a majority of criminal court cases be heard by judges and magistrates rather than juries. This week, Courts Minister Sarah Sackman, KCMP, said the move would stop criminals gaming the system by choosing a jury trial to increase the chances of proceedings collapsing. Changes to jury trials are opposed by 90% of the Criminal Bar Association. Joining me now is the former Attorney General of England and Wales, Sir Michael Ellis KC, and political consultant and former Labour candidate Kevin Craig, who rejoins me. Michael Ellis, lovely to see you back on the programme. Well, there is a huge backlog of cases.
Yes.
The backlog doesn't do any favours to the victims of crime, doesn't do any favours to those who are accused of crime. It seems actually quite sensible to sweep juries aside in a majority of cases and try and clear this backlog by 2029.
Well, this is a disastrous plan, and for one thing, it won't work to clear the backlog, in my view. What this does is say that we're going to dispense with juries after, frankly, 800 years of English history, judicial history. Jury trials became a thing in the year 1215, although they actually started even before that, a few years before that, in the reign of Henry II. And here we are in a cavalier fashion saying that people who will be likely to receive sentences of less than 3 years should not have a jury. Now, the problem with that, Michael, and the reason why it isn't going to work, frankly, is because
already you've got 70% of all cases that appear before the magistrates ending in a conviction. If you do away with a jury, you're going to increase the numbers of convictions. And if you do that, already 90 to 95% of all criminal cases go before the magistrates. If you increase that further, you're going to find there are more convictions. That's going to put more pressure on the already overcrowded prison estate. So if you're looking to take pressure off the state system, I don't think this is going to work. That's point number one. But point number two, in principle, you're going to be removing a fundamental human right of the English people. And in fact, we were world leaders in this sphere. Soon after trial by ordeal, divine intervention was removed. This process began. And we're going to say, no, we're going to say people can't have a jury trial of their peers to decide whether they're guilty or not guilty of quite serious offences.
I'm not sure that I find the longevity of the system a particularly convincing argument. I mean, there are many things that we did hundreds of years ago that we have ceased to do, and life has changed in all sorts of ways. I mean, apart from anything else, I don't particularly want to serve on a jury, and many English and Scottish or Welsh people would probably feel the same. I mean, if justice can be done efficiently by people who are trained to dispense justice and trained to make judgments, why shouldn't we have fewer jury trials?
Well, because it's a fundamental right to test the rights of the British people in front of a jury if they're charged with an offence. We must remember that people are innocent until proven guilty. And in my experience, 17 years at the criminal bar before going into politics, when people are facing a trial and they have their whole life, their liberty, and everything about their future existence at stake, they want to have a trial by jury. But fundamentally, if you're going to remove this right, there should be a good reason for it. I can now see if the principle is broken of a trial by jury, the next time the government of the day wishes to make more savings, they'll increase the ability of magistrates sitting with a judge alone to hear cases, and even more cases will be taken away from a jury. So I appreciate that there are strains on the system, and I, for one, think that the delays in the criminal justice system are unconscionable. Something needs to be done about that. But having a delay of several years is absolutely offensive to justice too. Justice delayed is justice denied. So in that sense, I totally agree. But this is not the way to do it.
Kevin, if I were to find myself in the unfortunate position of being up for trial, I dare say that I would rather a jury heard my case. That I would perhaps put more trust in that. I'd think that I could appeal to that jury, or certainly my lawyers could. Do you not have sympathy with that point of view?
Well, you personally might, and then many others there are people at the moment whose lives are totally and utterly on hold, that their trial is not going to take place for literally years, with life-changing accusations that they're facing. And as Michael, who I have a great deal of respect for, who's been there and done that as a former Attorney General, as he rightfully says, the delays are impossible to justify. So I really like the fact that the government, Sarah Sackman, is leading the charge to deal with the delays. And also, in parallel, the government is increasing a lot the capacity of the prison system to deal with the other point. And I think just because we've always done things a certain way, we can't carry on like this. The justice system is literally broken, and I'm confident that the safeguards are in place to speed up, get rid of the backlogs, and still give people a process they can have faith in. I do understand that you personally might like the idea of the jury of good men and women, all true and that. But we can't carry on like we are. And I think, as Michael said, it's been done like this since 1215, etc. Things change. They have to change.
Is it common ground, Kevin, that more people are going to be found guilty under this change?
I don't think we can... We've got no evidence for that, though.
Well,
that's speculation. Because it's a future event, right, isn't it?
Well, but let me tell you, Michael and Kevin's a good friend of mine, but look, 71% statistically of cases before the magistrates' court end in convictions. 56% of cases before a jury trial end in convictions. In other words, you have more chance of being convicted before magistrates, and it stands to reason because if you're hearing cases all day, every day, you become a little bit more cynical, you become a little bit more ready to disbelieve an excuse that you're heard. But so you are going to find, I think, that if you're having a judge sitting with magistrates, you're going to find more people convicted. But on Kevin's perfectly fair point about these delays, the reason for delays in court now have got nothing really to do with juries. Juries aren't responsible for the delays. They act as the judge requires them to act, and they do what they need to do. The delays are actually caused by the increased amount of digital evidence, mobile phones, computer records, all of this sort of digital data, CCTV footage. There's so much more of it than ever was the case before. That all has to be trawled through.
Since you have statistics at your fingertips, are jury trials longer than trials conducted by a single judge?
Oh, yes, they would be longer.
So that would contribute to delay, wouldn't it? If they're longer, that must contribute to delay.
Well, it depends on the nature of the case, to be quite honest with you, but
if they're longer on average, it must contribute to delay.
Well, at the moment, you don't have any trials before a judge and two magistrates. You have appeals from the magistrates' court before a judge and two magistrates, but you don't have a trial at first instance before a judge and two magistrates. That will be an innovation.
May I add something to follow on from both of you?
This might be your last remark.
OK, so we have to remember something that makes me quite angry in this, which is that criminals are gaming the system. OK, they're opting for a jury trial because they think there's more chance of them getting off. And the last thing I'll say is that I think it was the Leveson report, which is a neutral piece of work, recommended these changes as a way of improving the system. So,
why reject Leveson, Michael?
Well, because I don't think it's going to be achieving the goal that they want to achieve. And I think that it's going to create a pressure on the system of a different type. Look, it's not just about how long we've had it, Michael. It's about the fact that there's already a feeling of infringement on free speech and on other aspects of rights that we've had for centuries. I don't think interfering with the right of a jury trial is the way forward. And remember, people are innocent until proven guilty. They're not criminals unless they're convicted of being criminals.
Good debate, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Sir Michael Ellis-Casey and Kevin Craig. Coming up, Noel Gallagher, who apparently is one half of the band Oasis, once said that the thing about Manchester is it all comes from here. Ed Glynott has written a new biography of the city that plays such a crucial role in Britain's industrial and cultural life, and he'll join me. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The unsettled weather continues across the central Mediterranean. Heavy rain and thunderstorms expected here. Some areas could even see a month's worth of rainfall in just a few days. Mostly dry and settled across Madeira, but many areas of northern Europe are going to see a very unsettled day on Monday. The poorest of conditions likely across Italy and around the Adriatic coastline. Some heavy showers and thunderstorms here. Still a mix of sunshine and showers into next week, with the best of the temperatures across Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
And welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. Manchester, with its hundreds of textile mills, became known as Cottonopolis. Its grim slums inspired the revolutionary communist Friedrich Engels to write The Condition of the Working Class in England. Its protesting citizens were slaughtered in what became known as Peterloo. A new biography of the city is structured in 3 parts: original, modern and beyond. And with me now is the author of that new book, Ed Glynott. Ed, welcome to GB News.
Hello.
Manchester did exist, as it were, in ancient times, but it becomes really great and really important during the Industrial Revolution. Why did that happen in and to Manchester?
There were a lot of factors about Manchester and the early years in the Industrial Revolution. Huge seams of coal, of course, which are still there, no one minds anymore. The damp conditions. Amazingly enough, it is damp in Manchester quite often, especially today. The damp conditions, it was found this was perfect for working with cotton, which of course won't grow anywhere where there's a frost, but was imported over. And they found the soft water in the rivers was also ideal for washing the cotton. And we became the world's leading centre for cotton production and manufacture, and the ingenuity of local inventors. People like Richard Arkwright and Samuel Crompton and John Kay, people like that with their amazing machines of the 18th century. All these factors came together to make Manchester the key centre of the new industry, the new system of working towards the end of the 18th century.
Which sounds absolutely wonderful, but many people lived in wretched conditions. And your marvellous Cheetham Library in Manchester attracted Friedrich Engels and indeed Karl Marx. And I think that rather implies to me that they thought the proletariat was going to rise up first in Manchester, but that didn't happen. Why did the proletariat not rise up in Manchester, do you think?
Well, I think Manchester, like Britain in general, actually, has always been a reformist rather than a revolutionary place that reform, gradually chipping away at the system. The system isn't perfect, so we'll chip away at it and make things better bit by bit, rather than, say, the revolutionary system that we had in Russia in 1917. That doesn't happen in Britain, it doesn't happen in Manchester. But Manchester led the way with all sorts of different types of politics. For instance, communism was very powerful, not in Manchester, but the writings and the work that Engels and Marx did, yes, you're right, at Cheetham's Library, amongst other places. Capitalism. You could argue that capitalism was pioneered in Manchester by people like Richard Cobden and John Bright, free trade, the free trade system. And in the 1930s, it has to be said, Manchester was a leading centre, appallingly, for another new political system, fascism. Oswald Mosley, the leader of the British Union of Fascists, let's not forget, was the 6th Baronet Moseley of Ancoats. We have streets in Manchester named after the Mosleys. Not him, I hasten to add, but his family, who were the lords of the manor.
Manchester in the present day is not so much associated now with industry, but it is quite strongly associated with science. Tell me about the connection between Manchester and science.
Yes, I think I date that back to the beginning of my book, Manchester, the biography, with a kind of honouring John Dalton with his atomic theory of 1803. This was the first time that anyone from Manchester did something that the rest of the world would sit up and take notice about. The idea that matter was based on atoms that combined with each other the same way every time to form compounds. No one had ever come up with a proof of that before. And John Dalton, a maths teacher in Manchester, did that at the headquarters of the wonderful Manchester Literary and Philosophical Society's headquarters, which sadly was bombed during the Second World War, so all his notes went up in smoke. So we don't know how he did it, which is ridiculous. And this led to, eventually, the splitting of the atom in 1917 at Manchester University. Ernest Rutherford didn't know what he was doing. He said, I can't see to what use this can be put. Well, 28 years later, we had the atom bomb dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So that was the use that Manchester came up with, eventually leading to the atom bomb. But not just that.
And also to nuclear power.
And nuclear power, that's right. But also right up to the modern day, we have a wonderful science sector near the university with all sorts of wonderful things happening, including about 15 years ago now, maybe, perhaps a bit earlier, graphene, the world's thinnest material, invented, created in Manchester. We're still waiting to discover what use is going to be put. It conducts electricity so well that no one knows how to turn it off. So come back in about 50 years' time and graphene will be everywhere.
Very briefly, complete this sentence. A person who knows London but not Manchester is missing out because...
Missing out because there's a wonderful spirit of creativity in Manchester that continues, and it just finds itself in all sorts of different ways. It's not just industry and science, but of course in the last 40, 50 years, we've seen it in terms of music. So we've come out with some of the greatest musicians, greatest bands that Britain has produced have come from Manchester. I mean, of course, Joy, the Fall and the Smiths.
Thank you, Ed Glynn. Congratulations on your biography of Manchester. Hope it sells well. That concludes the first hour of Sunday with Mike Portillo. Please rejoin me at noon, where my panel will discuss the trial to test on children the effect of using puberty blockers. Stefan Kyriazis has spent this chilly week warming up in London theatres. He'll share his heartening and maybe icy reviews with me. Scandal dates back in Westminster further than you think. We're going to be talking about the man who sold honours, and we'll look back at Westminster 6,000 years ago. All of that coming starting at noon. See you then.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, it's a mixed picture out there. We have an area of low pressure bringing rain and showers in the north, but it is actually going to be turning much brighter in the south and east. So an area of low pressure situated to the northwest of the UK, a real squeeze in the isobars across Northern Ireland, indicating some strong winds here. But otherwise across Scotland, especially north of the central belt, that's where we're going to see outbreaks of rain and hill snow. Further rain across Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, but to the south of that across Wales, southwest England, it's sunny spells, it's showers, but a much drier end to the weekend across the southeast. Temperatures reaching up to 10 or 11 degrees here, but feeling chilly underneath the cloud and the rain across the north. So as we head through the rest of this evening, again, we have this slow-moving weather front across Scotland, so bringing further spells of rain across central parts. Across Northern Ireland, again, the rain will start shifting its way further south and eastwards, but still holding on to some strong winds here. Further showers across Wales, across the southwest of England, but a drier end to the night across the south and east. So as we head through this evening, actually we'll see further cloud and rain sink its way southwards as the area of low pressure skirts across the country. So turning wet and windy across Wales and the southwest of England. Otherwise, across Scotland, Northern Ireland, we'll lose some of those showers, but it's still going to be chilly. We'll see those northerly winds move in once again, but it is generally going to stay frost-free as we start Monday morning. So some strong winds across the south and west with blustery showers here, turning drier into the afternoon, especially across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. Focus for the showers on Monday are going to be running across eastern coast. Otherwise, a lot of cloud around, but in the sunshine, actually Northern Ireland not doing too bad, holding up at 9 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket.